Great. Thanks, everyone, for joining our February Cloudy County. We're going to do our normal what's new with M365, and then we're going to be doing a deep dive a bit into some ways to collect information. There's a number of ways. Maybe you want to do a survey, collect some data, maybe collect some files, and we're going to kind of walk through 3 different ways that we can pick up some of that information and get it available so you can use it later in different ways. Dwayne's not going to be joining us today. I think he is traveling throughout the country. And thankfully, Philip, I appreciate one of people on my team here going to help out a little bit with maybe some questions and if anybody needs to be muted, things like that. So thanks for doing that, Philip. But we'll get started today on get a share going and start walking into this. And of course, feel free to ask questions anytime. And I'll be able to have some time at the end if after the recording is done, if you got anything else too. All right. So first thing I want to cover is just a nice little resource. I'm sure we've talked about it enough. Here is Copilot Chat, our favorite AI tool. There is a nice what's new page, kind of a roadmap dedicated to Copilot Chat that you can follow. And it takes you through different areas that you can look around, personalization, files. There's different things that are coming out for Copilot Chat. It's a quick way to get a view of what's in development, maybe things that we've talked about on these sessions, things that have launched. Maybe you missed it. Maybe you didn't realize that that has happened. So how it works is there's some areas within Copilot Chat it's broken down into. And there's what's in development. Get a little review of that. These little drop downs here, what's been launched recently. So just some things to see. Make sure you haven't missed something. Make sure you're taking full advantage of Copilot Chat. So information about files. Here they're working on being able to bring in email files into your chat and reason over those. So again, ways to kind of see what's coming, what to expect. This one, we've got in development images. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But one nice thing to look at. Next thing to talk about is I'm sure you're in a Teams meeting. You've probably been in plenty of them and have seen the Teams meeting URLs are really long, kind of ugly. Sometimes they get broken. Perhaps you're sharing them with someone, sending them in an email message. Microsoft's working on shortening those URLs, make them simpler, shorter, less chance of those getting messed up, like sent in an email and things like that. So looking forward to that. With this, there's some other things that are changing we need to talk about. And that these links are through some security. Microsoft is looking to start expiring our meetings. So there's some 60-day expirations that are going to start happening. So let's see, we dive down a little bit deeper in here. Give us a little better idea. Oh, here's what the URL is going to start looking like. That's going to be a little bit shorter. There's a meeting ID and a nice little passcode hashed on there. Again, if you take a look at one now, significantly shorter. The next thing is this expiration. So a Meet Now meeting is going to move to 60 days after creation. So Meet Now is, let's say you're in a group chat. You're chatting along with 2 or 3 other people, and you really just decide it's better to talk to that person, talk to that group of people, and you hit the Meeting Now button. That generates a meeting link. That's one way to start a Meet Now button. a Meet Now link. Those live around. Those are going to start expiring after 60 days. Not a big deal in that case. I think those are, you're expecting something, it's happened, it's over. You're not going to keep going back to that. You can go back to that chat, hit the Meet Now, start a brand new one again. For scheduled meetings, so 60 days after meeting ends for scheduled meetings, those are going to expire. That's probably not a big deal either. You've scheduled a meeting, it's occurred. There's no need to go back and start that meeting up later, especially after maybe 60 days. But that meeting link is staying around. So that's what they're looking to, just to clean up those meeting links and take care of those. Have to figure out what we're going to do. This might affect the meeting that we're on right now. I have to figure this out. This is a meeting that, same meeting link. We have just been running this for over a year now, keep coming back to the same link. So we're going to have to figure out if we're going to have to maybe do something different for all of you, do a little more testing and see if we're going to have to schedule something more often than just coming back to the same meeting. Something to be aware of. I dropped this in chat too. This is a great resource. I think we've shown it before. I use it often because it's a way to see the message center that is available to everyone. Not everything shows up in here, but the Microsoft 365 Message Center is really helpful. So you can go to that link. Not everybody is an administrator to see the Message Center. This gives us an idea of updates that are coming, things that are happening. Try to get ahead of things, change management. So something good to take advantage of. You're working with students, maybe your own. Just thought this might be very nice to pay attention to. Microsoft's offering for college students 12 months of Microsoft 365 Premium and LinkedIn Premium. But Microsoft 365 Premium is basically the consumer version of paid version of Copilot that you might have at your organization. So we all have Copilot chat in our organization. You can license potentially in your org. Microsoft 365 Copilot, that gives you the advanced features like researcher and analyst. These are things that Microsoft's offering for a year to college students. They get those same features along with LinkedIn Premium Career. Might be nice for someone who's going to graduate soon, but they're going to get offers to have basically that same set of tools like researcher and analyst and some of these other feature sets available. One tip, set a reminder. This will try to auto renew. Of course, Microsoft might want to try to sell you that. If you've got someone you're suggesting this to, tell them to set a reminder, make sure they turn off auto renew a little bit before 12 months. Make sure they take care of that if they don't want to end up paying for it. But it's pretty significant feature set available. Even the LinkedIn career, some skill sets in there. Definitely we're seeing grad students showing up as they're starting to look at their future, getting into LinkedIn, taking advantage of some of those would be potentially important for them. And there's a nice free resource. Mentioned it briefly, is that there is an upcoming model change for the way images are created in Copilot. Right now, we're using GPT-4o for image creation. And there is a new model coming from OpenAI, which is GPT Image 1.5. This page gives you an idea of some capabilities that have started rolling out for users of ChatGPT service. But I think, I feel like we're starting to see it show up now in Copilot. So how I've gone through and picked out a few examples. Here's an example. We've got on the left, we've got new and previous model. So the previous model, Here's an example of trying to draw a 6x6 grid of some images. And here's the new model on the left, give you an idea of what it's able to do. This one failed. It just did 4 crossed, didn't do 6x6 grid, things like that. Text rendering. So definitely in the current model you have for sure, text rendering has gotten a lot better. It's even improving more. So here's an example of an image. If I hit read more, here's all the prompt that went into this image to create what you see there on the screen. So all of that went into the single prompt. And it was able to produce this image. Other examples, let's see. This was interesting, trying to produce many small faces in front of the Golden Gate Bridge on the right, previous model, new model on the left. So I went and took some of these examples. They give you the prompts, and I tried those ourselves. So I'm in Copilot app, and I can go to library. That might be something new you're seeing. Library is a nice way to see the pages that you've created from a Copilot chat. You've maybe had a really good chat session and you saved that chat information into a Copilot page, and there's images. Take a look here. We can see that the image, the 6x6 worked just fine. Here's an image of the this newspaper article, basically. It's done a really good job of maintaining. Might be a little blurry on the screen, but it did a really good job of maintaining things that were meant to be bold, told to be bold in the prompt are bold. All that shows up properly. So that's pretty significant ability to edit and create an image with that much text like that. Let's see if there was something else. I think I did. Yeah, I did the images, number of people in front of Golden Gate Bridge. So mine to put a few people with some sunglasses on. And I think, anyways, that's looks like, I just can't, I don't have anywhere to prove it, but it feels like this model is doing really well with potentially, I'm seeing the new model we can start taking advantage of. Give some of those prompts a try, see what you see. Next thing we're going to talk about is SharePoint. SharePoint turns 25 this year. Some of you may have been using it that long, but if you are using Teams, you're using SharePoint. If you're using OneDrive, you're using SharePoint. There's some significant updates coming to making it easier to work with automation and workflows. There's new templates coming to work with your content in SharePoint. There's ability to do more advanced, quick rules that we have now. We have some rules, ways to make quick little workflows built right into SharePoint. We don't have to dive into Power Automate and do some programming, advanced, some low code, no code programming, but that's coming. Looking forward to some of these. I think the taking advantage and kind of owning some of your own internal business processes are just continuing to get easier and easier when we're using building on top of SharePoint. There's the ability to bring in these quick steps and make them actually an actionable column. So this is a SharePoint list, and there's now an actionable column where you can click a button and it actually will run that quick rule right inside of your list. So those are some pretty cool things that are coming. There was recently a big educational technology conference called BETT, B-E-T-T, usually held, I think it's always held in London. And Microsoft attends, and a lot of things related to the education side of the house gets rolled out. Drop that link in there. And let me see, there's one more link that I think is important. Drop these two. And they have a nice slide. Drop that into chat. So yeah, a significant number of features that are coming out that are starting to roll out around the education side. The Teach module. You've not discovered the Teach module, but I'm in the Copilot app. And along the left-hand side, I've got Search, Library, Create. I've got Teach, something you can explore there. Some new things that are coming out. There's some study aids. They've had flashcards for a while. They now have fill in the blanks that have come out. I created one here where I uploaded a document describing information about rainwater collection systems. I asked it to give me some questions, 5 or 10, and it produced a fill in the blank. And if we play this, gives you an option here to fill this out, each of these questions out. This has got 6 questions. And you can share this with someone across your university. And maybe it might be interesting for some onboarding, maybe onboarding new agents, onboarding new staff, things like that. Walk them through these flashcards, might help them learn terminology in your department, things like that. Might be able to take advantage of. If you're working with maybe 4-H students, there's ways to create curriculum, lesson plans, and base that lesson plan actually on standards. So there's probably 100 standards, some state level, different countries, even levels, to make sure that your lesson plans actually follow some type of specification. So something you can take a look at if you're an educator. So yeah, and the one document that I linked there is, we'll get you to a PDF file. And the PDF file launches you into a bunch of other PowerPoints that has been shared. Lots of great documents in here. If you're train the trainer, you might find some good slides in here about some of this content that might be important to you. You're using, take advantage of those slide decks and these live classroom presentations that Microsoft had at that conference. The Excel, couple things we're hopefully starting to see. Hopefully you've maybe seen this now. Is agent mode in Excel rolling out, and that is been in our browser, been in the web. Should be starting to see it on the Mac and in Excel for Windows. What is, let's see, that one's important. And do they talk about it here? I'll mention it. What is agent mode? Briefly, if you've been on a call before, I think we've talked about this because it is pretty fun. So I'm in an Excel file, and I've got Copilot open up the Copilot pane. And I have an option down here in my little prompt area for some tools. And we've got agent mode. I turn agent mode on. Agent mode will actually work as an assistant, like another person has opened up your slide deck. I'm sorry, your spreadsheet for you. And you're going to ask them to do some things, and they're going to go do the work for you. And the other thing that you should pay attention to is you might start seeing now another model to use. You can use Claude. So Copilot is a view into a couple different types of language models. We have some models from OpenAI, and now we have a language model for Anthropic called Claude. This is Opus 4.5. I'm going to do this live demo. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to try something where I just want to tell Claude to follow instructions found on this open sheet. All right, let's just say on sheet and sheet 3. Let's see if we can figure this one out. So what this is going to do is interrogate my sheet. If I wanted to ask it to maybe create a chart for me, previously it might make the chart and you would have to sort of insert that chart. You would have to do some work. But now the agent mode will actually do the work for you. So there we go. I asked it to kind of combine these 3 chunks of Star Trek characters. I have been given documents this way where I really needed it in a nice table. And I used this at this time to do this. I took it one step further and just said, could it even just read what some instructions right on the sheet? I don't know what you might want to do with that, but it actually was able to do that. So now I've got all that in one nice table in column K where I wanted to start. So pretty sweet, able to take advantage of those. One more thing I want to show, make sure that we know about is in your tool set, you have access to is something called Viva Learning. So how might we get there? So I'm in our favorite, let's just go back home, M365 Cloud. New chat, you can get there by going office.com. That will still currently seem to get you there where we want to go. And under apps, go to more apps and all apps. And in here, we're going to find learning. We're going to find learning twice now. I see if Microsoft figures this out. There's learning ... and learning. This is our Viva Learning. So we open this Viva Learning up. This will expose to you content that can come from some YouTube. It can come from LinkedIn. If you've not logged in or your institution hasn't integrated it with LinkedIn, if your institution has a LinkedIn Learning, it can be integrated and you can see everything in LinkedIn Learning inside of here. But I want to show that there's an academy called Microsoft Copilot Academy. And want to make sure you know that you can come in here and get learned up on Copilot. Lots of different role-based learnings even in here. Maybe if you're in communications, come in here, and this is focused learning path using Copilot, using AI for that type of profession. We briefly, this is the other learnings activity that will take you to this. This is where we recently saw we had our little fill in the blank on rain collection. Previous, this was a previous flashcard on some Star Trek characters. Give you an idea of how this works. Again, you can share this around your organization when you create these kind of things. That's going to be it for what's new. Being exclusive with OpenAI, yeah, that's nice that they are branching out and looking at other language models. Sometimes these language models, you pay attention, they kind of leapfrog each other. Some do better in certain aspects of creation or analysis. So yeah, it's nice to see that we're getting some choice there. That is supposed to get turned on by default for education. So hopefully you'll see Claude and Opus getting turned on. It does fall under all the data protection that we have expected in the past, data protection, so enterprise data protection. So using that model gets the same support agreement that we've been used to for Copilot Chat previously. Let's start looking at some of these ways to collect information. Going to really run through 3 different ways that we can get data, and just want to make sure you've seen these, maybe compare them. One is quite new that we'll cover. So we've got Microsoft Forms, pretty clear. What do you do? Forms. We can create quizzes, surveys, things like that. Not a problem. That might be something that you have encountered and taken advantage of and used it. You can have a form that is available anonymously. So anybody with this link could fill out this form. You can also, which is nice, is have a form that is authenticated, which means if someone fills it out, they need to have logged into your institution, and you automatically get their name and their email address. You don't have to ask for that information, which is nice too. Just going to cover some of the things that kind of to think about when you use a form. Highly recommend, if you've not used forms, come in, open up forms. Again, how do you get to it? You're in your favorite office.com start, go to apps, and you're going to find it in all apps. When you open up forms, this will take you to this homepage. First thing to think about in forms is, where does that form live? Who owns it? And if you come in here and immediately just start creating a new form, you are going to own that form. And the data can be automatically saved into an Excel file for you. That's something that maybe in other tools you have to use right now. You might have to go through some download process. But with forms, that's kind of automatic. And if you just create a form, walk into forms, start a new form, that's going to go into your OneDrive. You're going to own the form. And your data is going to end up in your OneDrive. So think about that. Are you collecting this information you need to share it with some other people? You could have that Excel file get created and share that Excel file. It's going to end up in your OneDrive. Or there's another way. You could actually put that form in a team, and everybody in the team owns it. You can do that a couple ways. So in Teams, I'm in a team, I'm in a channel. I can click this little plus on my channel, add an app. And in here, I'm confined forms. Now, when I add a form here, it's going to end up in this team. It's going to be a tab on this. And anybody in the team can just start editing this. Let's see, we're in Enterprise D channel. Everybody in this team, again, start editing it. They're going to be able to see the responses, things like that. And this is going to be in edit mode. So anybody can come into this channel, go to this tab. They're going to be able to start immediately in edit mode. Sometimes that's not so great. So let's just, let's use a template just to put something up here real quick. Holiday party invitation. And we'll go with that. Now I've got this saved, all good. What I could do is add an app, go to forms, use an existing form, see if this shows up, holiday party invitation. And I could put that into just show results or collect responses. So let's just do collect responses and save that. But now I've got this form. It's not immediately in edit mode. I could maybe come up here and remove that tab for the edit mode. Just something to be thinking about when you use these. So a question about this Excel file that gets generated. If anybody makes changes to those Excel files, are they permanent or the changes reversed if you download the Excel file from Forms? So We typically recommend not editing that Excel file that gets generated. Let's walk through that real quick. With respect to the columns of data that the form is generating, we can add additional columns to maybe track information that's in the Excel file. Let's look at one. So got one generated here. Course evaluation. We've got some responses. I can see there's 3 responses. I can look at individual results, kind of cycle through these 3 results. And I can also open this file up as an Excel file. And this will stay synchronized. I open that file. If there's been 20 new responses, they're going to synchronize into this Excel file for me. I would not recommend coming in here and modifying these columns, but you could add another column here and make changes to that and update that. And that's not going to affect the rest of your spreadsheet, the rest of that connected sync file. So that file, though, also, which is really nice, is you're going to find that on my OneDrive. So here's that course evaluation survey. I can open that. I can open it up in my OneDrive and see that same information. So there it is. There's a status column. So now I'm in the Excel desktop. Really nice, easy. I don't have to download this. It's always available to me. That will get synced and it's been synchronized. Take advantage of that. Now, what I could do is might be nice is I made a mistake. I wish everybody could access this file. You can move files around. You can move forms around. So I'm looking at my forms. These are things that I own. They're in my OneDrive. I could move this little 3 dots next to it. I could move it to a group. So group, think of it as a team. So I can get my list of groups. Here's a team. I can choose to move it over there. And now everybody who's in that team is going to have access to that form. All the information came over, all the responses, all that came over. And that will be something I can see now is what's going to be under called shared with me. Now, shared with me is maybe someone has actually shared a form. You can share it with someone, collaborate on it. But I can also come in and see forms that live inside of a team or a group. So here's the one I moved it over to. Here's that same form. There's still the 3 responses. Now, if I open this up, and if I view responses, I can open these results in Excel. We're going to see a little different change here in our URL. I can see now that this is in Teams. That file is in Teams, and it lives in that SharePoint site for that team. So now everybody in that team can see that Excel file. I don't need to share it with them and go through that process and do that. Let's see. So yeah, that's our. Yep, I just moved that one. It's no longer there. Let's look at some settings with respect to forms that take advantage of why they are different compared to the other tools we're gonna talk about. Look at settings. So right now this is set to just people in this organization can complete this. So what that means is I'm automatically going to get their name. If we go back to that file, I'm automatically going to get the person who filled it out's name and email address. I don't have to ask for it. So it's guaranteed that they don't mistype their own email. Some of that stuff is really nice. This can't sync anymore because that form doesn't exist, but this is the old form that got moved. But that's a nice feature, not have to ask for that, and always make sure you get accurate data. But you can also make it anonymous where anybody can fill it out on the planet. do anything like that you might want with it. You've got start dates. You can end this date. You need to finish, you need to fill this out by a certain date. You get a really long one, you can do progress bars. Other things that you can do in here is branching. So let's say, do you feel achieved your desired outcome? So let's add another question in here, and let's make it text. Expand on that. Or how can we make it better? If they put no. And we'll give them a chance for a long answer if they want. Now we've got this question in here. How can we make it better? Well, we really, if they say yes, great. We're good with that. So we can come in here and add some branching. So if they come in and say yes, let's have them go on to question 4. If they say no, let's go to how we can better. And if not sure, how can we make it better? Okay. So now if someone fills this out, they're satisfied. Yes, they get question 3, which is this teaching performance. If they hit no, now we ask them, okay, can you give us more information? Nice things you can do with branching capabilities. Yeah, thanks, Philip. There is some embedding capabilities. Getting it into an email, you've got to kind of rely. I think that's too much for the email. And provider can, making sure that every email provider, would support that, your viewer. But if you have collect responses, we can see what we can do here. We can get a short URL for that form. You can get a QR code, and you can get embedding. This embedding would be better to maybe put it on like a website, embed it into a web page. So it's right inside of a web page. Take advantage of that. Last thing about this that's pretty cool is you can pre-fill a form. So pre-filled URL. Let's look at, go back to forms, my forms. What might be good here to try? I did it. Let's just do this one. This is fine. It's short, so I can do a pre-filled form. What does this mean? So get pre-filled URL. What this is going to do is put you in the ability to kind of a preview, and you can come in here and pre-fill out this form. Now this one, maybe not, that's not my best example. I'll show you a different demo real quick. But I could fill this out, completely disagree. I don't have to fill out the entire form. But now I've got this pre-filled link. Copy that link. If I look at what does this thing look like, this is the nice long ugly forms link, not the short version. But you can see here is the answer to this question. So each question has a certain little ID here. Here is this answer. Maybe this would be better if it was an open text field or someone's email address that you wanted filled out already for them. Form letters. In some way, you could programmatically change this even. So one example I have is on our Gardening Solutions IFAS website. We've added some yes or no buttons. Was this page helpful? And if you click yes, or you click no, you can look at the URL. It might be a little hard to see at the bottom. But if I click yes, it's going to open up forms and automatically populate the page that the person was on. So we're asking for feedback on that page. That automatically got populated, and yes got populated because they clicked the yes button. Now they can continue to do more information. That's a little bit of programming on the back end to make these links change per page we're on, but it's pretty fun to do that. One way to use pre-filled forms like that. So let's look at Microsoft Lists, another way to collect information. Oh yeah, with forms also, you can ask for a file to be uploaded. Maybe you want to collect files. With forms, you can collect multiple types of files. We'll see later ways in which maybe just only can collect one, but there's a reason why. But you can collect documents too. If you are in OneDrive, you're going to go to your OneDrive. If you're in Team, if your form is in Teams, those files are going to go into Teams, and everybody has access in the team to those files that were uploaded. You do have to be authenticated, so there's some security around that. You do have to be, a form has to be authenticated to allow file upload. So there's definitely some security there. Lists. So Microsoft Lists. This is another way to collect information. A list is something maybe you're used to for a long time. They can live in SharePoint. Just go to a SharePoint site, go to your Microsoft team, open up Teams, end up in the SharePoint site. This is another view to lists, and just a little more modern view to lists. And again, this is one of your standard apps you're going to find in the Microsoft suite of tools, Lists. And we can put a form on top of a list. So what does a list look like? Here is a, this is, I think, built on a template. If you go to lists, you can create templates, use templates. This was one of the templates was travel requests. Now you might just share this list, like a file, a document with anybody. You could share this list and people could come in here and add items to it. But they could, if you share it, they could also, usually the default is they could edit things and then they can see everything. But maybe you want to collect travel requests in a way that, well, you want them in one place, but the people who are making those requests, well, they don't need to see all the other requests or come in and edit anything. So you can have a Microsoft list and you can put a form on top of it. So this is all the information I hope to be able to collect from someone to make a decision if we're going to have someone get approved or not approved to go for a travel event of some sort. When you're looking at lists, you can hit forms and you're going to be able to generate a new form. Let's just create one new. And our form title, some travel. And we're automatically going to have most of this form generated for us based upon the columns that were in our list. So those are automatically going to show up here. And these are fields that we can collect information about. Now, every one of these, maybe we don't want to have someone complete. For example, we've got approved. I don't want them to be able to just come in here and set it to approved to start with, so I can turn that off. Other thing that's nice is sometimes in creating a list in SharePoint, your column names, you might want to kind of keep those short. Maybe they make more sense for you, the person who's going to be viewing all the data. So you might shorten some words, abbreviate just to keep that column short. You can do that in this case. And then in the form creation, you could come in and edit the information that the user is going to see differently. So it doesn't have to, you don't have to keep those column names the same that the person has to fill out. You can also add a description. We could come in here, I don't know, just reasons for travel, something like that. That's not going to change my column data, my column name, just the way it views. And again, I can come in here, add descriptions, things that I can't do in the columns in the list, but it helps the person fill this thing out. I can do branching in here too, things like that. And then I can send this form off. What's unique about this is that it has to be authenticated. And anybody in the university, anybody or institution with that link can fill it out, but they can't see anything in the list. They don't have to have access to the list. They don't have to have permissions to the list. They're just going to see this form. So if I pull up, do a demo, I see this. So I'm a user, I'm authenticated somewhere else. That's all I'm going to see. I'll fill this out. I don't have access. I don't know where that form, that list lives, etc. But that data then is going to go right where I need it immediately. Take advantage of it. The next thing we're going to look at, and this is a new feature that is coming out and available. Real quick, one thing about lists is commonly we've found that with Microsoft Forms, the data that you have in a form, we often end up wanting it in SharePoint through Power Automate. We'll use Power Automate to take the information in a survey, put it into a list in SharePoint where we can make views to it, share it, nice features that instead of an Excel file, you can look nicer. Using forms, again, it has to be an internal form, people inside your institution. That form gets it into a SharePoint list already without having to do any Power Automate. So one way to kind of take advantage of that. Again, it's a list, it's in SharePoint though, and you can start doing some automations around that where you could have rules, start approval processes. Those are some of the reasons why we like to get data into SharePoint. And from one of those links we shared earlier, there's a bunch of new workflow coming that we can take advantage of. So that's something to look at. The next thing we're going to look at is in SharePoint, I like to joke, everything in SharePoint is a list. So even your document library, where your files live, is a list. It just is designed to support files instead of like list items, but they're all still list items. What does that mean? So let's create, we're going to take advantage of this new feature, which is forms on top of a document library. Let's see if we can build something here real quick. Scenario is we want to collect some resumes for some internships. I'm going to create, I'm in a team. I'm in the SharePoint site of a team. Again, that's helpful so everybody on the team can see this information coming in. It could be your own SharePoint site inside of a team or just a standalone SharePoint site. I'm at the home page here. I'm just going to create a new document library. And again, there's some nice templates here you can already take advantage of, see what those look like. I'm going to build one and let's do internships. Now, I want resumes. I want to collect some resumes from students, grad students who we've got some internships they might want to apply for. But if I just get some resumes, what internship are they applying for? What I want to know some things. What year do they graduate? Things like that. What department they're part of. That might help me kind of categorize and decide maybe who needs to review these resumes as they come in. And we know SharePoint library, document library does really well with files. So let's add some columns here. So I'm going to add a choice column. Let's call this grad year. Years in here. And let's collect, maybe they'll give us their, we want their department that they are currently majoring in. Pick a few. How about one more? That's good. how about the internship that they're going to apply for? Let's come up with a couple of those. Um, how about one more? We're going to add a person column. And I'm not making this required field, but maybe if they're a grad student, maybe I want their major professor. Maybe I could do ask them kind of how that student's doing or something like that. So I'm going to add a person column. I've got some columns here, information like this that I want to collect. Now I've got this forms button. Just like we saw in lists, I got a form I can put on top of this. I can start generating a form. Give it a name. Sure, pick a color. And now, just like we saw kind of with the Microsoft Lists creation step, I've got some options here of things that I want to collect. I can do a few things that I can rearrange these. So maybe I want to put, internship you want to apply for first, your grad year, and get your major department when you graduate. Give this form an actual name. And internship, applying for this, I can do major department. That's, to make that a little prettier. Again, you can come in here, make changes, make the form look a little bit better. Might do that with grad year, et cetera, et cetera. There's some themes. There's start date, end dates. Maybe you need to have these students put these in by a certain time, something like that. Again, you've got branching even, and take advantage of that. So again, I can send this form. Now that I've got it created, I can make a copy of that link. Now, anybody in your institution, again, could come in here and fill out this form. So let's go back here and see about collecting file. So this is what the end user is going to see. Internship request, I want your resume. I could say upload file, could say like, give me a resume. I've auto-generated with the Copilot some resumes. Let's drop one in here. You just drag and drop it. And let's say we're going to do food packaging. That is, we're worried about entomology for food packaging, perhaps graduating in a couple of years. And my major professor, now this is going to pull automatically from your organizational identity. So let's pull Dwayne and hit submit. So I don't know where those files live. I don't need to know. I didn't need to do anything, but I've got that file submitted to somebody else now. And if we go back, look, internships, here's our document that's come in. All that data has been already pre-collected for us. So as these roll in, what you could start doing is creating different views, perhaps. So I could create a view or sort by these columns. So if you get, 200 in here, you could decide to create a list, SharePoint lists and document libraries. You can create different views. Let's save this view as, let's call this one just entomology. Okay. So I've got a view called entomology, and what I want to do is I'm going to edit this view. Come in here. edit this view. And we've got some sorting capabilities in this view, and I've got filter. So let's filter for, what did we call that, major department, where it is, or that's equal to entomology. And we'll save that. Now there's only one in here. Go back, entomology, internships, department. If I had multiples in here, I would only be seeing the entomology one. But that's some way to take advantage of that. Again, we made that form look pretty. We didn't modify our columns, things like that. And we could even add another column here after the fact. It won't affect our form. Let's do choice, and let's do maybe, I don't know, a status. And we could be, review. They've been reviewed, maybe one that's, hired. Save that. We can come in here and start maybe even doing some workflow around this if we wanted to. That is a whirlwind tour of ways to get information across 3 different tools. This one being pretty new, putting a form on top of a document library. Appreciate Philip hanging in there. I see Professor Dwayne has joined us. Appreciate that. But I think we've covered the questions pretty well that came up on the recording. So I'm going to stop our recording. We're right about at time, and be able to hang out, dive into this a little further. I've got any questions to follow up. But again, thank you all for joining us for February Cloud Accounting. And hopefully we'll see you in March.
Thanks, Joe, for